Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
President Trump says, and just very recently blamed the Obama administration, saying they didn't do enough about Russian interference. What should have been done more? Could more have been done? And you were at the FBI at that point.
That's a hard question. President Obama faced a very difficult choice. The number one goal for the Russians is to damage our democracy and undermine faith in our electoral process. If he makes an announcement that the Russians are coming for the election, has he just accomplished their goal for them? And has he given Donald Trump an excuse to say Obama fixed the election? So I get why he struggled with it. He did a very sensible thing. He tried to get the bipartisan leaders of Congress to jointly tell the American people this is going on. And in my view, to their everlasting shame, the Republicans refused.
You offered to write an op-ed, didn't you?
Yep.
And that was warning the American public about Russian interference, and that what was it, the administration said no?
Yeah, I offered it to the administration saying, if you decide to try and inoculate the American people, I'm happy to do it. Here's what I would tell the American people. But I get why President Obama hesitated, and I agreed with his concern about not accomplishing the Russian goal for them.
So there was the dilemma, and the Republicans who were briefed on Russian interference, who were told during the campaign, during that cycle, that it was going on, they refused to issue a joint statement with Barack Obama, with the President of the United States, knowing there was a counterintelligence investigation that was opened because Russian interference had been documented by the intelligence community, all of them, and there's 16 intelligence, outfits, and every one of those outfits signed off on the conclusion that was predominantly composed by four of our intelligence outfits, saying that the Russians were inside, the Russians were hacking, the Russians were interfering, and the Russians had a goal to get Donald Trump elected, that they hated Hillary Clinton and would do anything to keep her from being the president of the United States. Well, McConnell knew, and Burr knew, and Lindsey Graham knew, and John McCain knew. And they refused to put out a joint statement with the president of the United States to protect the American people, to inoculate them, to get them to understand that they should be careful with, these Russian rallies that were being organized, and unwitting Americans were showing up to Russian rallies that had "Lock Her Up" as the theme, or had Hillary Clinton dressed up in prison garb, right? And the Republicans refused. They allowed it to continue. They allowed it to happen because they felt they would benefit from it. And that's why they're complicit. So knowing that, it is true that we could impeach President Clinton. We impeached President Clinton. So that's true. But that we could impeach Donald Trump. It would die in the Senate. They would never take it up. I doubt very much that Mitch McConnell would actually have a trial where evidence was presented and presided over by the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. I doubt he would even do it. It's not something he would say he has to do. His reading of the Constitution would say, oh, all it says is the Senate is the sole trier of fact with regard to removing a president. He wouldn't say the Senate has an obligation to have a trial. It would just say, if you were going to have a trial, then it has to happen in the Senate. I'm not in the mood. And everybody knows that. Everyone who thinks about it, everybody who understands it, knows that. Even Rick Wilson, who is a Republican, knows that. And his warning goes something like this.
That's a fundamental problem, I think, with the Democrat strategy right here, is they're like, well, we'll impeach him and he'll be so ashamed his behavior will change. What? He'll wear it like a badge of honor. He loves this idea because nothing will happen in the Senate. So a lot of the things the Democrats are doing.
Wait a second. I want to stop you there. You think he wants? See, I don't subscribe to this theory, but you do subscribe to the theory he welcomes impeachment.
I think he wants impeachment like nothing else on earth. He wants to be a martyr. He wants to be a whiny little baby every day on Twitter about how cruel they are to him, and to snivel like the little, well, sorry, I'm not going to curse on TV tonight.
Thank you. Good.
But he wants to snivel every day, and he wants to complain every day, and he wants to send out direct mail and email fundraising and raise $300 million from the rubes out there because they're so mean to me. That you can't shame the shameless, like you said. But what you have to do is increase the pain level by holding his people to account and working your way up the chain with investigations and sanction.
So that could be the answer to what Gerald Nadler was saying the other day. The other day, Gerald Nadler was saying there's a better way to deal with this particular president's impeachment. And I didn't understand because he didn't elaborate, but maybe Rick Wilson's idea is the right idea, and that is that what they intend to do is to work their way up the food chain, treat it like a RICO investigation, that the whole entire organization is corrupt, and start with showing that, we already showed Michael Cohen is corrupt. We already showed Michael Flynn is corrupt. We already showed that George Papadopoulos was willing to lie to the FBI. We already showed that the Russians were in and the Russians were corrupt and the Russian intelligence agents were actually operating, and that Corsi was very sure that he was able to reach WikiLeaks, and that after the Access Hollywood tape, in a matter of hours, he was able to convince Julian Assange to dump a whole bunch of Podesta's emails. I mean, and that's what I think Nadler is talking about, although he got so furious when he read the obstruction of justice lawyer letter that he received in response to a previous subpoena that came out before Mueller's report, that he says there's nothing left to do but impeach him. So now we're stuck. We're stuck. And here's what we're stuck with. Can we impeach Trump? Yes. Do we have the votes to impeach him? Yes. Do we have the grounds to impeach him? Yes. Do we have enough criminal activity to impeach him? Yes. Do we have enough people lying to cover up on obstruction? Yes. Did he obstruct when he was tweeting about Michael Cohen's father-in-law? I'm going to go after him if you turn state's evidence. Your family's not safe. Yes. Did he dangle pardons in front of Manafort to get him to not cooperate? Yes. Did Manafort end up lying to the FBI even during his plea deal and giving information to the joint defense lawyers representing Trump and Trump Jr. and all? Yes. We have enough crimes. There's no question we have enough crimes for an impeachment. We cannot remove him. We can't remove him. And Trump running as an impeached president, it could be something that he really, really wants. To play the whiny little bitch victim. That's what, Rick Wilson was wanting to say. He loves being a whiny little bitch.
The president's policy now, the president's posture now, is making it impossible to rule out impeachment or anything else. The letter we got from the White House yesterday is beyond outrageous.
So obviously, he's continually obstructing. Obviously, he continues to defy subpoenas for documents, for testimony. And, people are going to say, oh, he talked to Mueller he never talked to Mueller. Junior never talked to Mueller. So many of them never talked to Mueller. They refused to talk to Mueller, okay? Donald Trump answered 0 questions on obstruction. He refused to answer, even in writing, any question on obstruction because he knows he did it. He knows it's consciousness of guilt. It's actually a legal term for what he is doing. So what do you want to do? Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.